Hey guys, and welcome back to the fourth and final part of designing your own app from the ground up. We're going to be working on finishing off the items page, building out the checkout flow, and a couple of other bits and pieces along with prototyping the final design here. This will be a little bit longer, so bear with me, and if you want, feel free to put this on 2 or 4 times the speed, which you can do through the YouTube controls, so you can move ahead a little more quickly if you wish. So first thing I'm going to do here is just finish off this items page we were building before. I'm going to be putting in a button that will be the sort of add to bag button, very much following the similar button approach that we have used earlier. I'm just going to put it inside the bottom of the card so that when a user hits that select the size drop down, there will be that opportunity to then add it to the bag. All I'm doing now is I'm copying and pasting the background layer of that card and moving it down to signify the second card and rearranging those layers so that it appears as though it's going underneath of the tab bar, so that when the user scrolls, more cards will come from underneath that tab bar as such. So this second card is going to be about information and sizing. I'm just going to keep it really basic here for now because we're not building the sort of full scroll version today. It's going to be almost like bullet points. So I'm just going to make up a bit of information. So for example, I've just written there, made for feet width, narrow feet width, and the model sizing. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to place the like button up the top, and I'm also going to put the back arrow. And I'm going to put some shadows on the both of them so that when it's placed on a white background we can see it. I don't really like to use shadows on top of a design for single items like this. But when you've got a white background such as this one, it's just too hard to see otherwise. And to help counteract that, I'm also going to extend that gradient, that very light black gradient, into transparency so that those icons are a little bit more visible. And I am now just going to throw in a little bit of prototyping as we go. I like to do this just to save a bit of time later. So very simply, I'm going to link the homepage items to the sale or the category page, and then the category items onto the item page. There's nothing too major. These ones will save us some time as we go. So I'm just gonna do that. Now we're gonna move on here to the filter page. This page is gonna have a cross instead of a back arrow because it's gonna come up from the bottom of the page, as in it's gonna be an overlay almost. So I'm also gonna remove that tab bar down the bottom, which we'll do a little bit later on. And then just very simply copy and paste some of the form items we used on our sign up page and put them in here just to get some sort of visual consistency across the various screens. Now the first thing I'm going to do is we don't need these icons, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it and pop this 20, I've done 30 for the meantime, but we're going to do 20 pixels out from the edges and also put a drop down arrow on the right hand side of the box 20 pixels out. I'm just going to copy and paste this a few times over now. But the first thing we need to do is just to remember to change those corners on the middle items so that we have a rounded bottom and we don't have the rounded edges throughout, so it looks like one consistent unit. So now you notice we've got a whole bunch of sort and filter items that we had discussed during our wireframes, things such as brand, price, item type, size and color. And all I'm going to do now, just add a very quick little bit of prototyping, which is clicking that back arrow and selecting the previous artboard, and I'll do the same thing for the item page while we're there. So I'm just going to change the name of this artboard to filter. This makes it a little bit easier later on when you're scrolling through the artboards to very quickly see. You can see the visual difference, but when they have the same name it can be confusing. And we're going to move on now to the next page. So I'm just going to tidy up what we have here. This is going to be for the search page. So all we need here is that like button along the top, and we're going to change this coupon box that we had earlier into an actual search bar. Now we're going to do that by copy and pasting the search icon that we're using in the tab bar below. We're going to decrease its size a little bit, make it 16 pixels by 16 pixels. I align it to the middle and then to the left side of that box, and we're going to pop it out 20 pixels from the side of that. Actually 15. Then I'm going to move that text that we had in the middle of the box right next to it, and that's going to be what are you looking for, and then we can clear the contents of the rest of the search page. What we're going to do here is we're going to have a couple of featured categories, as we had suggested earlier during the wireframing stage, that are going to be based on what are the most common sort of items people are going to be looking for, so that we can quickly help them without them needing to type. So I believe this would be a couple of key categories people might be looking for depending on the genre, the gender they have selected, sorry. That might be females or males, for example. So I'm going to just start off here with something very generic, and that's going to be shoes. So this is going to be the template sort of item that we use and we then clone over a few times over. So I'm trying to actually make it look a little bit nice and easy on the eye. So the way I've done that is I've increased the character spacing of this word quite drastically. So we've got 3 now. So it's looking very wide, a little bit trendy. And what we do need to remember, as always, is to change the rounding on the inside edges of that box. And now we've got a nice looking template like so. All we do now is we'll copy and paste that a few times over and make them whatever you please. As with every page, we just have to make sure that we don't forget to reset the opacity of the tab bar indicators. And there's our search page in a nutshell done. Now I'm going to move on to the profile page here. So the only difference between this is there will be no bar underneath of the heading, and we're actually going to move the heading to where the bar would be. We're going to put a little photo above it. So I'm just going to make up a name here and use the nice Unsplash provided to us through the craft plugin. So this is going to essentially be the dust guts of this page. I'm just going to bring in some of these filter items that we had on the filter page, just to again ensure some visual consistency. And I'm going to put it like so. We are going to be bringing back a few icons that we had used earlier in the email fields and so forth. We're just going to quickly fix up some of the layering I've got here because we're doing this on a bit of a timeline. The grouping isn't as nice as I usually like it. So now that I've done that, that'll make it a bit easier. I'm going to bring in this nice portrait slash user icon here. I'm going to remove the drop down. I don't think we need it. You could keep it if you like, however, because this isn't signifying an accordion, this is signifying a link to another page. So I'm going to change that to payment methods. I'm going to bring in a payment icon, and you can sort of add as you please. I'm just going to go ahead and make a few more. I won't bother showing you that. That's up to you and what you please. So that's our profile page done. I'm going to move on to the bag page now. This is going to start to involve the rest of the checkout flow as well. So we're going to start off in the bag, but there will be a link to the first checkout page, which will link to the second, and then finally to the success page. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the heart icon to a bunch of text. You might find this sometimes, that white box we saw, it's just a bug with Sketch. Just simply hide and unhide the layer and you'll notice that goes away. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the bar where the search bar would have been previously to a button. And that's going to just say tap here to check out. And we're going to have the total next to the My Bag where the heart or the like button would usually be. So again, I'm going to go for a similar look and feel to the search page where we had those sort of featured categories. I'm going to be going for a similar approach in regards to having a photo on the left hand side, which for now I will just take this shoes one that we had been using earlier, copy and paste that in. I've made a mask by selecting those two groups and pressing mask. We just need to make sure we change the edges to being flat on the inside, and then just re-showing, unhiding that photo layer. So now I'm going to go ahead and put some information in this box. So the first thing that we might put in might be the title of the product. I'm not going to bother with the brand for the moment. Could put that above if you wanted to. Just finding here that when I type that, it's looking not too squished together. So I'm going to reduce the size of the mask, not the image, otherwise the image will become pixelated. And then I'm just going to increase the size of that title to 16 to the body size. And the second part's going to be the color. I'm going to change it to a 14-point font, just a bit smaller and not in medium sizing as well. And this is just going to signify the color that the user's chosen. We can make it so that when they press on that but it would give them the option to change it or take them to the page, sort of whatever you feel like doing. So underneath of that, I'm just going to finally list sort of the final price or the total price of what's going on here. And then just sort of play with this spacing a little bit more to make it look nice. So that should do. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to copy and paste this background and just shrink the size to right up to the edge of the mask and about 53-54 pixels tall. This is going to allow us to make space for the size and the quantity, which I believe are quite important things. The user would want to know how many of a shoe they bought or what size they bought. It's in my mind a key sort of purchase criteria or decision. As you notice, we're kind of running out of room here, so I'm going to increase the size of the mask in the background again by another 10 pixels. And that means here we're going to also have to make the image a bit bigger as it's not fitting in the mask. And now when I put that box there, you'll notice it looks still a little bit crowded, but considering we're working on mobile, we always have to be a little bit crowded in my mind. So this looks a bit better. Now I'm going to copy and paste that box that we've made and divide the width by 2, and now we end up with this. And we're just going to play around with these inner shadows again to give us a divider in the middle of the box. So the first thing I'm going to do on the left hand side is the size. So we're going to go with, just go with medium for now. We're going to put it in 18-point font. Since it's only a single letter, we can afford to use a bigger font size. And I'm just going to copy and paste that layer, put it underneath, change it to a 14 and a regular, and that's going to be the label. So here will be size. Then we can put them in a group and make sure they're aligned. We can group that whole thing and copy and paste the box over and just change it to quantity. So that's the template done for the items that would be in the user's bag. I'm going to copy that out for 2 items here, and then I'll just make sure above that I change this to 2 items instead of 3. So that's our bag done. I'm just going to change the artboard name to bag and copy and paste it, and this will be the beginning of our checkout flow. So here I'm going to use this as sort of a step indicator. I've divided the width of the box by 2 on a new layer, and I've just chosen a background color and white text, and then I'm going to pop it in a group and slide it over. And I'm just going to, all I'm going to do with this is change the opacity down to 20. So you can see there's a second step, but you're not on it yet. Now I'm going to bring in the cross indicator again. The reason for this being, again, this is going to be a slide up. If when you tap the checkout, it's going to take up the full screen. It's going to come up from the bottom. We don't want people to be able to navigate in and out of checkout. We want them solely focused on checkout. That's a little bit of a conversion-based thing as well. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take exactly the same concept we were using for the cart. All I'm going to do is decrease the sizing a bit, put the flag of the country on to replicate where it is we'd be delivering to, and just change some of this information here. So I've used the color indicator, I've put it above, and then changed it to a green, and now that's primary, to sort of indicate a primary address. And underneath of that, I've got the address, so I've just made up a fictional person here and a fictional address, and I'm going to pop them all in a group and vertically align. And that's going to be it for our delivery address. The only thing I want to do is add a label, and that's going to be delivery address. I'm going to put that outside the box. Again, we've got that sketch bug. We'll just unhide that layer. And then on the right hand side, we're just going to make a little label that says use a different address, which would act like a button. Now we've got that in a group, we'll put that 20 pixels out from the top. And the next thing I want to do is take some fields that we had from the profile page, and we're going to use this for shipping options. So I'm just going to make up something here. We'll go standard shipping, medium weight the top line, align it vertically. We're just going to bring in a checkbox, and that should be about it for that. I might just make the height a little bit taller so it doesn't look as crowded. We've got some room to work with. I'm going to pop that all in a layer, and now all I'm going to do is copy and paste it down a line. So I need to change the order of the layers here because you'll see it was underneath. So now that I've done that, that'll work better. And now I'm going to bring in an unchecked box and just change this to express shipping or something like that. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to delete that tab bar because we don't want people to be able to tab in and out. And there's our first page done in a nutshell. The only thing to add in final is the button to go to the next page of the checkout. So all I'm going to do is take the button that we used on the earlier page. I'm going to make it nice and big. I want it to be very obvious. And there's our checkout one done. The only thing we have just realized we've forgotten is we're going to need to go back and add a label for the shipping. So we'll do that in a moment. We'll just copy and paste what we had above, slide it down a couple of pixels, put that 10 pixels out from those two, and you'll notice that these two fields are a little wider. So I'm going to need to change a little, not as wide, sorry. So I'm going to change them over to be the same width as the box above, which is 360 pixels. I'm going to put that all in a group, and I'm going to put it about 30 or 40 pixels out from the group above. So that's looking a bit better now. So now this is going to be the payment method field. Again, I'm going to take a very similar approach to what we've been doing in the previous field. So I'm just going to put the payment method type in, which will be Amex here, and then just change all the information. I'm not going to change a thing there. So I've gone through that very quickly because there is no change. So feel free to put in what you like. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a little breakdown of the pricing. So I'm going to start on the top with the total. It's going to be in bold. And then on the right-hand side of the box, I'm going to put in the total price. Now that I've got that, I'm simply going to copy and paste that out a few times after I make the height a little smaller so that it fits on the page. And we've got 3, but I want to add a 4th. I want to add delivery, and it's not looking like it's going to fit. So what I'm going to do is just space it 30 pixels out. We need to make it a bit wider again. Now I'm going to need to play with the height of these to make it work. So what I'll do is I might just nudge maybe between 4 or 6 pixels off each line, because you'll notice it's way too close to the button for my liking. So I'll take 4 pixels off each. Again, I won't bother going through this in too much detail, but now you'll see when I do that, it's fitting. It's still a bit tight, but it's better. We don't need to have a header there because it's just going through the total. So that'll be the second page done. I'm going to go now and make a success page. This might be something you'd see when the user's done. I'm just bringing in an icon we've used from Undraw here. I'll put the link in the description. The great MIT-based license illustrations made by a great group of people. So there's that done. I'm now going to move on to doing some prototyping here. We had set this up as a symbol, this tab bar, but actually what I'm going to do a bit, because I'm a little lazy, is just copy and paste over this one hotspot I've made and change the hotspot depending on the icon. So the second one is for search, the third one will be for profile, and you can see I'm just doing that through the right hand side, prototyping in the Sketch UI. And what that will allow us to do is then pop all these hotspots in a group and copy and paste it a few times over. There are a few different ways you could do this. You could do this in the symbol, which is probably the way I should be doing, but again, I'm just going to do this for now because I'm going to have to go and copy and paste the symbol across a few times anyway. So that's all of our screens with a tab bar done. You'll notice I've just deleted the tab bar off the sort and filter. That's the same thing as the checkout page. That's coming up from the bottom, so I don't want anyone to be able to navigate out. All I'm going to do here now is just start to put some more finishing touches on the prototyping. So I'm just looking through now for any spots where I can see I need to add some. So with the logout, for example, I'm going to take this to onboarding 1, but I might actually change that to go back to the login page. There's no need to go back all the way to the onboarding. So I'm just going to change that to the onboarding screen. And then the onboarding screen I've already done earlier, so you'll notice we did this in the first episode. So that's looking good. What we do need to do now is tidy up the login and sign in pages. So when we press login with Facebook, or a blue login button, I do want to make it so that it takes users to the home page. So I'm just going to do that now. If you select both the groups at the same time, it'll allow you to prototype them both at the same time. And then as for the forgot password page, I'm just going to make that button return to previous upload because you can only access it through the login page anyway. So I find the easiest way to prototype is to do it as you go, and then as you're navigating through, you'll find your dead links, and then you can fix them up as you do that. So one thing to notice here is on my bag, we have forgotten to highlight the right nav bar option. We've still got the search bar as 100% opacity. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to navigate back to these layers, change the opacity of the search bar down to match the rest at 30. I'm going to change the tab 4 group back to 100. And that will fix that issue we were facing earlier. All I've done to access that is hidden the hotspot layer so that I can click through to it without clicking the hotspot. So now you know that's updated here. That's looking good. I can flick through all the tab bar items pretty well. The sort and filters working. This is beginning to look like a holistic app. When I press add to bag, that'll take me to the bag. The only thing we've forgotten is to add in that checkout page. So I'm just going to prototype up this checkout bit. This is very easy. It's just a couple of buttons, literally going to the next layer over. I'm not going to add in any animations. And then for the final one, for the success page, the return to home button is going to take us back to home. So I'll just do that through the drop down here. And there we are done. That will give us the majority of our app. There are a couple of screens missing on profile, but that is a wrap otherwise. So if you've enjoyed the video, as always, please don't forget to subscribe, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.